"You don't belong in this line." The voice snapped, just as the bank fell silent on Christmas morning, and a quiet man tightened his grip on his mother's hand. The words landed hard, sharp enough to cut through the soft music playing overhead. It was Christmas morning, the kind meant for kindness, yet the tension inside the bank thickened in an instant. People turned their heads, a few lowered their eyes. The young teller at the counter froze, her smile fading as she realized the comment was not meant for her, but for the man standing calmly beside his elderly mother. He did not react. He did not argue. He only shifted his body slightly closer to his mother, shielding her without a single word. His name was Kang Jun. No one in that bank knew it yet. To them, he was just another quiet man in a simple coat, holding papers in careful hands, waiting his turn like everyone else. No one guessed that the calm in his posture came from years of pressure, or that his silence had been forged in rooms far louder than this one. Within the first moments, something fragile cracked in the room. Christmas cheer met human judgment, and neither backed down. Junho's mother stood small beside him, her hair silver, her coat neatly pressed. She leaned slightly on her cane, eyes lowered, trusting her son to guide her through a place she found confusing and loud. She had insisted on coming herself. Pride had always lived gently inside her. At the counter stood Amara Lewis, a teller whose presence softened the harsh lines of the bank. Her skin glowed warm under the lights. Her uniform was crisp, her posture straight, her eyes kind but alert. She had worked this shift because others had families waiting at home. She had chosen duty over comfort, believing small kindnesses mattered most on days like this. When the sharp comment rang out, Amara felt it like a bruise on the inside of her chest. She looked at Junho. He met her gaze for just a second. In his eyes, she saw not anger, but patience, the kind that comes from someone who has endured more than most and learned when to speak and when to stay still. Jun-ho had not always lived this quietly. Years earlier, his life had been a blur of long nights, glowing screens, and endless responsibility. He had grown up in a small apartment in Seoul, where the smell of rice and soup clung to the walls, and his mother's voice carried warmth through every room. His father had passed early, leaving behind silence and unanswered questions. Junho became the man of the house before he fully understood what that meant. He studied by dim light, fingers stiff from cold winters, dreaming not of wealth but of security. He remembered the ache of hunger that came quietly, the sound of his mother sewing late into the night, the way her hands shook from tiredness she tried to hide. When he left Korea, he carried her hopes in his suitcase and her words in his heart. Work hard, stay kind, do not forget who you are. The world he entered was not gentle. Boardrooms tested him, doubt followed him, people underestimated him often. He learned to answer with results instead of noise. He built a company slowly, brick by brick, mistake by mistake. He slept in offices, missed holidays, ate cold meals alone. By the time success found him, it felt almost distant, like something earned by another version of himself. He sent money home, flew his mother to visit when he could. Every achievement carried her name quietly etched into it. Now, on Christmas morning, he was here for her. Just a bank errand. She insisted on finishing herself. He wore no sign of status, no watch to signal power, no words to demand respect. The conflict grew as murmurs rippled through the bank. Someone sighed loudly. Another person muttered about delays. The earlier voice did not apologize. It stood firm, fed by the comfort of public silence. Amara felt her pulse quicken. She had seen moments like this before. Small acts of judgment, dressed as rules, words sharpened by impatience, and always the quiet people who carried the weight. She took a breath and did the only thing she knew how to do. She treated them with dignity. She greeted Junho's mother first, smiling gently, asking how she could help. Her voice was steady, warm, human. The old woman's shoulders relaxed a little. She smiled back, relief softening her face. Junho noticed everything. The way Amara leaned in to listen, the way she slowed her speech without sounding condescending, the way she ignored the tension behind her and focused only on the person in front of her. Authority and humanity collided silently behind the counter. The process took longer than expected. Forms needed review. Signatures were done. The impatience behind them grew heavier, louder in its quiet way. No one spoke up. No one defended them. The bank seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see if dignity would survive the moment. Junho felt the familiar pull to intervene. He could end this. A name, a call, a reveal, but he stayed silent. He watched Amara work, watched the care in her movements, the way she treated his mother not as a burden, but as a person worthy of time. Something warm stirred in his chest, unexpected and gentle. Then came the mistake. A supervisor approached, glanced at the documents, and questioned them sharply. Policy, verification, tone stripped of warmth. Eyes slid past Junho and settled somewhere less respectful. Amara straightened. She spoke carefully, explaining the situation, defending the process without raising her voice. Her hands shook just slightly, but she did not step back. Junho saw it then. Courage does not always roar. Sometimes it stands behind a counter on Christmas Day and chooses kindness anyway. The tension peaked when the supervisor demanded additional proof, implying inconvenience, implying doubt. His mother's grip tightened on her cane. She whispered an apology to no one in particular. That was the moment something shifted inside Jun-Ho. He reached into his coat slowly and placed a single card on the counter. No announcement, no pride, just paper meeting wood. Amara glanced down. Her breath caught the name, the title, the company seal. Her eyes lifted back to him, wide but composed. Understanding passed between them without words. The supervisor noticed her change in posture, followed her gaze, and froze. The room changed instantly. Voices fell away. The air thinned. Respect rushed in where judgment had lived seconds before. The supervisor's tone softened. Words reshaped themselves into apologies that arrived too late to erase what had already been said. The earlier voice went silent. People shifted uncomfortably, suddenly aware of their own stillness. Junho did not gloat. He did not speak loudly. He simply nodded, thanked Amara for her help, and turned his attention back to his mother. True power, he knew, does not need to prove itself. As the transaction finished, Amara handed the papers back with care. Their fingers brushed briefly. It felt electric, not because of status, but because of shared understanding. Two people who chose respect when it was not required. Before leaving, Junho paused. He looked at Amara and spoke softly, telling her that kindness shown without expectation is the rarest kind. His words stayed with her long after he walked away. The bank watched them go, some with regret, some with quiet admiration. The injustice dissolved, leaving behind a lesson no one said aloud. Outside, snow drifted gently. Junho helped his mother into the car, her eyes bright. She told him the young woman had a good heart. He agreed. Days passed. Christmas lights dimmed. Life moved forward. Amara returned to work, but something inside her had changed. She carried the moment with her, the reminder that dignity matters, even when no one seems to notice. A week later, a letter arrived at the bank, simple, handwritten. Inside was a thank you note and an invitation to coffee. No pressure, no title, just a name. They met quietly, talked slowly, learned each other's stories. Junho listened more than he spoke. Amara shared her dreams, her struggles, the weight of choosing kindness in a world that does not always reward it. Connection grew, not from drama, but from respect. Months later, when people learned who Junho was, they were surprised not by his success, but by his humility. When they learned who stood beside him, they understood because love, like power, speaks loudest when it does not need to shout. On that Christmas day, inside a quiet bank, two lives crossed through tension, silence, and grace, and something lasting was born. In a world quick to judge, remember this: dignity costs nothing. Kindness reveals everything, and sometimes, the greatest love stories begin where respect stands its ground. If this story moved you, comment where you are watching from and what moment stayed with you the most. Subscribe for more cinematic stories that honor quiet strength, unseen battles, and love built on respect.